Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are digging into one of those things that seems so simple on the surface, but it's actually fundamental to making software development, well, predictable. We're talking about labels in GitLab.
And that's the trap, isn't it? Most people just see them as, digital sticky notes, some colorful squares you just slap on a ticket to make it look organized.
Right, just decoration.
Exactly. But if you're managing anything at scale, they are absolutely not decoration. They are, and I mean this, the nervous system of your entire project management setup. They're what turn a messy, chaotic list of tasks into something you can actually filter, report on, and act on.
The nervous system, I love that. It moves us way past the whole sticky note idea.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone listening, what's our mission today? What do we need to get our heads around?
So the basic definition is still there, right? A label is a tag you put on an issue, a merge request, an epic, and you use it to categorize things. Simple. But our mission today is to go way beyond that. We want to get to organizational efficiency. We're going to look at two very specific concepts that let you use labels to get reliable, consistent data, not just for your team, but for the whole company.
Okay, so what are they?
We're focusing on hierarchy, making sure they're consistent, and then on a special type of label that actually enforces workflow rules for you.
Perfect. That sets us up nicely. Let's start with that first idea, with hierarchy. We've talked about groups and projects in GitLab before, so why should I really care where a label gets created? Doesn't the system just, handle it?
You should absolutely care, because where a label lives determines who can use it and, more importantly, whether you can do any kind of cross-project reporting with it.
Okay, so break that down for us. What's the baseline?
The baseline is a project label. It's created inside one project, and it stays inside that one project. So imagine you've got a big product group, and under that you have a mobile app project and a web app project. If the mobile team creates a label called urgent, well, it's stuck there. The web app team can't see it, they can't use it, they can't even filter for it. It doesn't exist to them.
But hold on, what if it's just a small temporary thing? Maybe the mobile team is tracking something really specific to their project, isn't trying to standardize every single label, just extra work.
That's a fair point, and, that is the only real use case for a project label. Something hyper-specific, temporary, experimental, something no one else needs to know about. But the chaos of not standardizing once you have more than a couple of teams is so much worse than the little bit of upfront work.
Let's talk about that chaos then. Paint a picture for me. What happens when everyone just makes up their own labels?
It's what happens when you have to run a report for your boss. The mobile team is using urgent. The web team, they decided they like high priority, and the back-end team just writes, must fix now.
No.
So you, as the manager, you're trying to pull one single report of all the truly urgent work happening across engineering, and you just can't.
Because I'm stuck trying to remember 3 different text strings and hoping I didn't miss a 4th one someone made last week.
Exactly. And it gets worse. It's not just the name. The mobile team might have made urgent bright red. The web team colored high priority orange. The back-end team used purple for some reason.
So your master issue board looks like a mess?
A total mess. It's like a confetti cannon went off. The data is broken, the visual language is a mess, and your metrics are basically meaningless because urgent doesn't actually mean one single thing across your organization.
That really drives the point home. It's not just about filtering, it's about a shared organizational language.
That is the perfect way to put it. And that leads us straight to the solution. Group labels.
Okay.
If you define that urgent label at the top level, let's say you have an engineering group, it just cascades down automatically. Every single project and subgroup underneath it gets the exact same label.
So same name, the same color, everything.
Same name, the same color, the same description. It's standardized instantly.
So that's the critical takeaway then. If you want consistency, if you want reports that actually make sense, you have to use group labels.
Yes. Always prefer group labels. You need to start treating the label itself, its name, its color, as a proper governed asset for the organization.
And if it's a governed asset, I assume there are best practices for governing it.
Absolutely. You should have clear policies. Maybe all group labels start with a prefix, like G or something, and definitely standardize the color scheme. Bug is always red. Feature is always blue. That visual cue becomes instant and universal.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, so we've established where labels need to live to get consistency. But that's only half the problem solved, right?
How so?
We've standardized the word, but we haven't solved for human error. We're still relying on people to remember to, remove an old status label when they add a new one. Is there a tool for that?
There is, and this is where things get really powerful. We're moving from just tagging things to actual workflow automation. This is where we bring in scoped labels.
Okay, here we go. This is where it gets really interesting because scoped labels, I think, are the true game changer. They look a bit technical, right? They have that key.value syntax.
They do, and that's because they're designed to be functional, not just pretty. That double colon, the gem array, is a direct instruction to GitLab. It's telling the system that this label is part of a mutually exclusive set.
A scope.
A scope, exactly. And this is what turns them from simple categories into actual enforced states in a workflow.
Now, some might ask, why is that complexity needed? If my team agrees a ticket can only be doing or done, but not both, can't we just trust people to follow that rule?
You can, but trust doesn't scale. What happens when a developer is in the zone, they move a ticket to done, and they just forget to remove the old doing label? It happens all the time.
And now you have a logic error in your data. A ticket that is somehow both in progress and finished at the same time?
Precisely. And that one little mistake completely messes up any metrics you're trying to pull. And that's where the beauty of mutually exclusive comes in. Within a defined scope, so all the labels that share the same key, the part before the double colon, you can only have one applied at a time.
So the classic example would be something like status is the key.
Exactly. You'd create a set like status.todo, status.doing, and status.done.
Okay, so let's walk through the mechanism. My issue already has the status.doing label on it. I go in and I apply status.done. What does the system do?
It's automatic and really clean. It doesn't ask you. It doesn't prompt you. It sees you're applying a new label from the status scope. So it instantly and automatically removes the old one. It just rips off status.doing and replaces it with status.done. It's a swap, one action.
That's incredible. I remember working on projects where we'd have these long meetings arguing about tickets that were marked both ready for review and blocked. The data was just a total nightmare.
It always is, and this is why it's so relevant for anyone listening. This gives you data integrity. It means you can actually calculate things like cycle time and lead time accurately. If a ticket is accidentally left as status.doing for 3 days after it was finished, your metrics are skewed. Scope labels make that impossible.
It's like it transforms your label system into a state machine.
That's the perfect term for it. It's a self-policing state machine that forces your workflow board to reflect reality. No ambiguity allowed.
A level of ruthlessness I appreciate. Okay, this has been so helpful. Let's try to synthesize this for everyone listening. The two big pillars here.
Let's do it. So first, if you need consistency in reporting that works across the whole company, you absolutely must use group labels. Define them at the highest level you can.
And second, if you need your data to be clean and you want to enforce your workflow to make sure a ticket can only be in one state at a time, you have to use scoped labels. With that double colon, the key.value syntax.
That's the perfect summary. One is a suggestion, the other is a rule enforced by the system. It's about using labels as a governance layer.
So when we step back and look at the big picture, what does this all mean? We're just talking about simple text tags, but it sounds like we're actually designing complex business processes with them.
That's exactly what's happening. And what's really fascinating to me is that the ability to scale an organization often comes down to the disciplined standardization of these seemingly tiny things. By creating a group label, you're defining a business term for everyone. By using key.value, you're defining process rules without writing a single line of code.
You're using metadata to do system design.
Yes. It forces you to think critically about your process, to define clear, unambiguous states before you even start.
You know, that leaves me with a really powerful final thought for our listeners to take away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you can define a strict, enforceable state machine for something as complex as a software workflow, using just these simple key.value text tags, what other complex processes in your organization could you simplify and enforce with the exact same mechanic?
That's a good one. Things like incident response, maybe, or content publishing workflows.
Or even internal budget approvals. It's a simple, low-tech tool with a massive impact.
It is. It's a powerful concept for bringing structure to almost anything.
A fantastic provocation to end on. Thanks so much for walking us through this. This was incredibly valuable.